Here's the question. Can you beat Force Unleashed 2 without using the Force? No. Just no, you can't. It's in the name. It doesn't want to be leashed. But let's say we only count the combat use of the Force and not all the getting around Force usage. Still no, you just can't. Well, I couldn't anyways. You might be able to figure it out. Who am I to say? So I guess we answered another challenge. See you later, friends. Alright. If you're still here, I might as well try to be as much of the Force Unleashed 2 as possible without the Force. That means the lightsaber and sometimes my feet are the only means of hurting my enemies. I will still use the Force to move around and deal with obstacles, as it's literally impossible without it. Now let's go do our best to keep this Force on a leash and cause minimum damage to the galaxy at large. So the first 15 minutes of the game is mostly Vader being a concerned father for his clone son. That's a lot to take in, I suppose. So to break it down, this guy is supposedly a clone of the Starkiller of the first game, and Vader's trying to get him to not go crazy like many clones before him. Not out of fatherly love, but to do his dark bidding. You know, like most parents. Starkiller 2.0 doesn't want to kill the woman he loves though and decides to escape. Here's my first test already, as I can't use the Force to destroy these obstacles, and instead have to plummet right into them. I was hoping to use my head to win this challenge, but I didn't mean so literally. I almost made it too, but a TIE fighter cut my flight short. Well, I'm barely in, and already my first death. Feels almost like a new record. Even after I bashed my way past all the obstacles and cut my way through stormtroopers, I still don't feel right. It could be the massive concussion I got from pancaking into solid steel over and over. Sure, but I think it's bigger than that. I feel that Starkiller isn't the real hero of this story. Ah, there we go. The true hero of our story, Admiral Akbar himself. Probably didn't know he's Force sensitive, did ya? He doesn't like people to know, so that explains why he's going to use it so rarely. Right away, we see his prowess as he easily defeats the troopers that are meant to be immune to lightsaber attacks. They can block extremely fast lightsaber strikes, but never learned how to keep me from grabbing their weapon from them. Maybe I could not give it back to them, though. When my path is blocked by fans, I feel pretty confident I can dash through them. I was sadly mistaken. Unfortunately, when I come across an unaware soldier, the game demands I mind trick him to his death. I really do try and warn him by making as much noise with my sabers as I can, but I think he has his AirPods in or something. Still, I feel Akbar went a bit too far here. As instant karma for that, the game places me against a giant, shielded droid that shoots carbonite. Well then, can I just go back to my room and stay there quietly, please? After repeated visits to the great aquarium in the sky, I realize using cover and then jumping above the droid allows me to deal the needed damage with minimum risk. At least that's over. Oh, and yep, now they're sending jetpack troops at me. Good thing they're really easy to kill using Force Lightning, which I'm not allowed to use. Back to hiding behind cover till they come into range and then pouncing, to immediately be put against another carbonite droid. For a game that's supposed to be a real power fantasy, I'm sure doing a lot of hiding. It's almost like they designed this game with heavy Force usage in mind and didn't count on an idiot coming along and saying, nah. Game designers, when will they learn? I'm right at the exit when they block my path yet again. Not once, but twice. First, I have to use the Force on a TIE fighter to create a bridge over, and then the game forces me to use Force Fury in order to fight two AT-STs. Sure, I'm using my lightsabers to do it, but I feel it's rather unlikely they're so far from my body because they're on strings and not the use of the Force. But maybe. That's my headcanon anyways. It works and we finally escape Kamino. Sure, Vader's right there and could probably easily grab us with the Force, but he's like, nah, I don't feel like it. Didn't Starkiller rip an entire Star Destroyer from space last game? Surely Vader would have no trouble pulling one small ship down. Guess today's his lazy day. Lucky me. Flying to Cato Neimoidia, it takes 0.5 seconds before everyone's trying to kill me again, and I'm immediately forced to use the Force to deflect missiles back at a walker. But the game tries to make it up to me by at least facing me against enemies that are immune to the Force, but vulnerable to lightsabers. What poor, unfortunate souls. When I find my path blocked by lightsaber throwing, I make sure to use my blades to deflect the blaster bolts back at my enemies so they won't die from the fall caused by my Force powers. I'm thoughtful like that. I'm not very good at timing the deflect, but that's where spamming block like crazy works wonders as well. When I come across a room blocked off by a force field, I simply go through the side doors. Why they didn't think of blocking off that really easy workaround, no clue, but it works for me. At least it gives me the time to really take in the art. This one really speaks to me. But unfortunately, I don't know the language it's speaking in. When I get chased onto a tram by a gunship, I find the path filled with TIE fighters. And somehow, distance does not equal speed multiplied by time after all, as we never seem to get closer to our destination. Instead, it's equal to how many TIE fighters can I make go kaboom. I learn something new every day. And my forced Force usage doesn't end there, as I have to defend the tram from the gunship's renewed assault. I try asking the ship to move closer so I can stab it, but for some reason, it's not up for that. When I'm placed up against more barriers, these I can thankfully stab through and kill the troopers before I smash the barriers apart. Perhaps they should, take 2 steps back out of my reach, but I guess that's too much for them. Right after that, that annoying gunship returns and proceeds to shoot me a bunch. It's bad enough having to use the Force to send missiles back at it. It's even worse when I suck at the timing and get hit by said missiles. But finally, in comes Quick Time Event Akbar to use the Force to finish off the ship. You'd think when it lost 1 engine, it would think now's a good time to retreat. But none of these guys have much sense, it seems. Well, I made it. I'm here to rescue my old friend Jedi Coda, and now that I'm here, we can leave together, right? Well, no. He takes off immediately, leaving me to fight this gigantic, rancor-eating monster called the Gorog. Or Gord to his friends, but I'm not one of them. This is undoubtedly the evilest part of the game. Why, you ask? Well, it's simple. Does the game allow me to fight him for the most part without using the Force? Actually, yes. Is that a smart way to fight him? Not at all. He's supposed to be electrocuted heavily and shackled with the Force to make for a fight that should take about 5 minutes or less. But it is possible to just wait for him to smash the ground with his fists and let loose with my blades on him. A move which he rarely performs and doesn't take much damage from. He's much more into swiping the ground and pancaking me with his palm. But that won't stop me from following the rules of the challenge and pinpricking him over and over. It's not hard to avoid his attacks, but it doesn't take many hits from him to die. So what would be a nice short fight takes an hour and a half of losing my sanity to finally bring his health all the way down. It's a good thing I figured out near the end that I can stand directly in front of him, and that makes me untargetable by nearly all of his hits. Twice in the fight does he make me use the Force to progress, as his health won't lower any further from my blades, but it's done. Oh wait, never mind, I forgot for a second the universe hates me, and turns out that's only his first health bar, out of 3. At least there's some mercy in the fact that the second stage is much simpler, requiring no use of the Force at all, and easy opportunities to stab away. You think watching me beat this creature so much would make the Empire stop attacking, at the clear truth that there's no beating the great Admiral Akbar. But nope, no sense here to be found. Of course, the monster still isn't done yet, grabbing Coda for a mid-flight snack as he plummets to the ground. Fish are not supposed to be flying, but that doesn't stop Akbar, it seems, as I jump after them. Dodging the debris isn't difficult, but it's here Akbar uses a ton of lightsaber throwing. I want to use my lightsaber normally, but something about plummeting to the ground at breakneck speed while trying to free your friend from the galaxy's largest monster seems to make that a tad difficult. With one last Force cannonball through the monster, Coda's free and we're snatched from death by our ship. Wow, let's see Luke or Anakin Skywalker do something like that. Who needs the Chosen One when you have Admiral Akbar running around? I take a nice cameo break with Yoda, where I learn my lightsaber colors actually have been affecting the gameplay. I had no idea green crystals help you heal faster. It's just my favorite color. How handy. I head back to the Rebellion in order to track down Juno, the woman I love. I do enjoy this nice talk with Akbar and Coda, though.
Knows that you're really back.
You still don't believe that I'm a clone?
I don't know.
Not sure why he doesn't think I'm a clone of Starkiller. The resemblance is uncanny. When the ship comes under attack by the Empire, the game really wants me to use Force Repulse to deal with an onslaught of droids. But what if I just don't? Game? Didn't expect that, did ya? Now we can all just have an awkward staring contest. Don't these droids know? Never have a staring contest with a fish. They can't handle the pressure and they're bound to explode. I'm ambushed shortly after by some creepy teleporting guys, but I'm not sure Akbar realizes the danger. Doesn't look like there's a thought behind those eyes. And I'm gonna need some thinking power as these creepy fellows vanish if you try and slash them. Thankfully, they aren't prepared for the ancient, powerful Jedi technique of spamming block, which stuns them and leaves them open to counterattack. This makes protecting the ship quite easy till I come across a giant terror walker, which is not a walker that Palpatine uses to get around, but a giant droid shielded from all my attacks. Wonderfully though, I don't have to use the Force on him and only have to use it to plug batteries back in, which isn't technically a combat Force attack. With the batteries plugged in, the droid shields are removed and he becomes easily destroyable. I'm supposed to hold off hordes of enemies at the same time, but I find zooming past works just as well. And then I can unleash the force of science upon these fools with the Terror Walker myself. Sorry, I lost myself for a second there. I finish off the Terror Walker and brace myself as we take the fight to the Empire on Kamino. The initial defensive onslaught by the Empire is actually quite easy to beat, even with their use of AT-STs and smaller walkers, but I find it much more annoying to face off with jet troopers and snipers over an abyss. At first, I easily wipe out the troopers once I realize that fall damage doesn't actually exist here, but when snipers ruin my dreams of an easy victory, I find it much more difficult to close the distance with the mobile high ground users in subsequent attempts. Finally, I realize that the floor I need to maneuver to is actually really easy to pull down, and I simply leave the troopers behind to contemplate their purpose in life. I start to question it myself when right after I'm put up against one of those carbonite droids again. Except these don't shoot carbonite, but instead have gone with a more understandable element you might know as fire. And all my tricks don't work against it like the carbonite ones, as its much more liberal use of flame and shield bashing makes my death inevitable. But I realize I can just dash past them to freedom. Hooray! Oh, never mind. There's another one with a door that requires a battery to get through. Of course. I try repeatedly to beat the droid, but as you might know, fire and fish do not mix. But honestly, fire and pretty much every living thing doesn't mix well, so I guess that's obvious. As my sanity crumbles around me, an idea springs to mind. Why fight droid when droid be slow? So I lure the droid away from the door I need to get through, plug the battery in, light it up, and flee past the enemy. Only to immediately get confronted by yet another one. But I have a plan now, and it works yet again. Thank the Force for slow-moving enemies who have no concept of following you beyond the area they first encounter you in. I guess the game didn't like me outsmarting it, as it decides to place 2 snipers high up and out of reach, but make it a requirement that they die so that I can progress. I attempt to deflect their shots back at them, but I learned the hard way you can't do that to these guys. So instead I try to stack boxes to reach them, but accidentally chuck one at them. Thankfully, it doesn't hurt them, but it does knock them to my level. Not what I intended, but at least I can kill them with my lightsabers so I can salvage some success from it. With that, Akbar uses himself as a battery to the ship's main gun and unleashes his power on a nearby destroyer, completely shattering it in 2. Now to pull an Anakin and use our ship itself to smash through the planet's defenses. I'm supposed to move the debris using the Force, but I got curious what would happen if I just didn't. Huh, nothing at all. Works for me. Oh wait, nope. Now the glass is starting to crack. That doesn't scare me. You're gonna have to kill me first before I do anything. Oh yeah, okay. Okay, now I'll go ahead and move the debris. Well, look at that. It's been like 24 hours since last plummeting to our death from high above, so that must mean it's that time again already. And of course, what other way to land safely than by manhandling a passing TIE fighter and then chucking it to its doom? If I was an Imperial here, I'd be finding the nearest rebel clothing and putting it on instead. There's not enough loyalty or credits to face off with Kratos the Force God here. Sadly, that line of thinking doesn't appeal to the 3 ATSTs guarding the path forward, and death becomes common for me. It takes me a bit before I realize the reason. The game knocked me out of my Admiral Akbar form when this level started. An easy fix. Somehow, I still keep dying anyways, but I'm sure that's a fluke. It's likely because these ATSTs are the most annoying versions I've ever faced, able to shoot me from all angles and knock me down quickly with a ground pound. I'm only able to beat them barely when I get the wall cannons targeting me to accidentally hit the ATSTs instead. After that, it's actually quite simple to fight through the hordes of troops ahead of me. That is, till I come across multiple incinerator droids who insist on making my life hell. Thankfully, by killing everyone but them, the doors ahead will open and I'm able to once again leave them behind. My genius is unstoppable. Oh my god, no. No, no, no. Not you guys. Anyone but you. Not only are there 2 of these evil droids, but there's no cover, and there's no getting past them. For 10 straight minutes of death and suffering do I continue to try and figure out a way to beat them with my sabers. Yeah, no, not even close, not happening. I couldn't beat 1, I certainly can't beat 2. Why do I keep forgetting how much the universe absolutely loathes me? This isn't indifference, this is pure, targeted loathing. I have no choice but to accept their superiority and activate my Force Fury. This is the closest to a compromise I can do. That way I'm still using my sabers and still only hitting X, but it is still the Force, I can't deny. I'm forced to do it one more time to another unskippable incinerator droid, and I can feel my soul burning up as surely as my little fish body did repeatedly. Thankfully, from here it's a pretty straightforward shot to reach Juno trapped at the top of this building with Vader. Sure, there's tons of saber and Force users in here, but they're not really a threat.
Don't go in there alone! The Dark Lord is waiting for you!
So you're saying, it's a trap! When the trap is sprung, Vader strikes. But look at the fury, the bravery in Akbar's eyes, and tell me, who's this trap really for? The thing you should know about Admiral Akbar is he's not much in the movies because if he were, there wouldn't be much of a plot. It wouldn't be fair for the Empire. Vader would be too scared to face him after this fight. Vader is incredibly easy to fight, barely ever putting his guard up, and when he does, it always leads to a quick time event that's quite simple to beat. The hardest part is the hordes of clones he sends at me, though their main difficulty is not in their skill, but the fact that I find it very hard to tell which one of them is me and which is not. Thankfully, we have different colored lightsabers or I'd be completely lost. This fight goes on repeat for a bit before Vader finally reveals Juno. He does the whole villain spiel about me serving him or she dies, and he really lays into it.
Bow before me, or she dies. Find and kill General Kota. If you refuse, the woman dies. You will return to me and give yourself to the dark side. If you resist, she dies. And when your training is complete, you will hunt down and execute the rebel leaders. If you fail, she dies.
But come on, Vader! You have one freaking bargaining chip, and you just chuck her out the window? I'm starting to think you just wanted her dead. With that, the Admiral goes full Akbar on Vader, letting loose every bit of power on him. Well, mostly. The game wants me to use Force Lightning, but I refuse, and that only slightly lengthens the fight. What Vader doesn't understand is I have all the power here, as all the rain means I'm no longer a fish out of water. I do love the entire fight as Vader calmly telling Akbar to get over the girl, and he just raids screaming in response.
She loved a dead man. She would have never loved you.
You will die where you stand!
Despite kicking his cyborg butt the whole fight, QuickTime Event Vader gets the upper hand and almost kills me. I didn't see the button prompt. Can we try that again? Oh, we can? Thanks. Oh my, I cut off his hand. I'm sure he's used to it by now. As one final stab through my heart, QuickTime Event Akbar insists on using Force Lightning to defeat Vader, but at least he does a silly spin during it. You can really tell it was Anakin who raised him, with the level of drama and merely Force Lightning in someone. Drama kings. With that, huzz! A half huzzah. Because over 7 hours and 46 minutes with 109 deaths, I definitely did not beat Force Unleashed 2 without the Force. But hey, I beat most of it without the Force, so that's something, I guess. I would like to point out that once again, the big bad is not finished off, because the second game in a row, Kota pops up out of nowhere after all the fighting to tell me to spare him. This guy is single-handedly trying to keep the cannon intact. The hardest part of the challenge was obviously the incinerator droids, as they literally forced me to break the challenge. But at least the easiest part was actually the boss fight with Vader himself. Never mess with an angry Akbar. With that, I thank you for watching and hope you enjoyed it. Now go keep a vigilant eye out for any traps and have a great day. See you later, friends.